There comes a time in every person's life when the mountain before them is no longer just an external challenge. It is not the job they lost, the relationship that ended, or the opportunity that slipped through their fingers. No, it is something deeper, quieter, and far more persistent. The true mountain we must climb is the one within ourselves, the fears we've buried, the wounds we've ignored, the dreams we've shelved because we were too afraid to try. You feel its weight every time you hesitate to speak your truth, every time you sabotage your own progress, and every time you find yourself stuck in a cycle you swore you'd outgrown. But here's the truth Brianna Wiest wants us to understand. You are not afraid of climbing the mountain, you are afraid of what will happen when you no longer have it to climb. Welcome to The Mountain Is You, a transformative guide by author Brianna Wiest, a voice in modern self-development who writes not with cold instruction, but with compassionate insight. This is not a book about superficial fixes. It is a journey inward into the core of self-sabotage and emotional mastery. Published in 2020, this non-fiction work reveals why we stand in our own way and how to finally stop. Let's begin. Self-sabotage, Wiest explains, isn't laziness. It's not a lack of ambition or potential. It is, more often than not, the result of a deeper conflict between our conscious goals and unconscious needs. You might want success, but fear rejection. You might long for love, but secretly believe you're unworthy of it. So you push it away. In this delicate tug of war between desire and fear, sabotage becomes a form of self-protection. We all do it. We procrastinate on the project we care about the most. We choose comfort over growth, familiarity over freedom, and all the while, we convince ourselves that we're just being practical, when really, we are afraid of the version of ourselves on the other side of transformation. This is where the mountain begins. Wiest invites us to stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and instead ask, "What am I protecting myself from?" Because beneath every sabotaging behavior lies a need for safety, a need for control, a need for certainty. To understand self-sabotage, we must look at the emotional wounds that created it. From childhood, we absorb messages, some subtle, some blunt, about who we are and what we deserve. Perhaps you were told you were too much, too sensitive, too quiet, not enough. Perhaps love was given inconsistently, or success was met with criticism instead of celebration. These experiences don't just vanish. They become internal narratives, silent rules that dictate how far you allow yourself to go before pulling back, before you lose what little security you've managed to build. So the sabotage continues. We find ourselves in jobs that drain us, relationships that limit us, habits that numb us, and we call it normal. But something inside us knows this isn't how it's supposed to be. That knowing is the first crack of light on the mountain. Wiest doesn't offer quick fixes. She guides us, instead, into emotional excavation, into radical self-honesty. She introduces a powerful framework for change rooted in what she calls emotional intelligence reprogramming. The goal, not just to understand your triggers and fears, but to rewrite the beliefs that keep them alive. One of the first steps, she says, is naming your patterns, without shame, without judgment. Are you constantly starting over in relationships? Do you avoid success because it brings pressure? Do you thrive in chaos but unravel in calm? These aren't flaws, they're clues. Wiest reminds us that self-sabotage is not always dramatic. It often hides in comfort. In just one more scroll, in maybe next time, in I'm just being realistic. But over time, those small decisions erode your confidence and keep you tethered to a life that doesn't fully belong to you. Then, she introduces the concept of emotional addiction. Yes, you can be addicted to your emotions. If you've lived most of your life in survival mode, navigating stress, anxiety, or instability, your nervous system adapts. It begins to seek out those familiar feelings, even when they're destructive. That's why peace can feel boring, why love can feel suffocating, why success can feel dangerous. And so the sabotage isn't about ruining your life, it's about returning to what your body thinks is safe. But safety and fulfillment are not always the same thing. As the journey deepens, Wiest challenges us to redefine identity. She writes, "Self-sabotage occurs when you have two conflicting desires. One is conscious, the other is not. You say you want to be confident, but deep down, you still identify as the shy kid in the back of the classroom. You want abundance, but still see yourself through the lens of scarcity. So every time you reach for growth, your subconscious pulls you back into alignment with who it believes you really are. To change your life, you must first change the story you tell about yourself. That means grieving the version of you who survived, but cannot thrive. The part of you that coped, that endured, that made it through the fire, but is now afraid to leave the ashes. You are allowed to outgrow your survival identity. And that's where the healing begins. Wiest also offers powerful insight into emotional processing. Most people, she explains, don't truly process their emotions. They suppress them, avoid them, intellectualize them. But emotion, unprocessed, does not disappear. It becomes tension, illness, overreaction, emotional numbness. To climb the mountain, you must learn to feel, to sit with grief without rushing it, to honor anger without being consumed by it, to recognize fear, not as a sign to stop, but as a compass toward your edge. This is not easy, but it is necessary. Because the truth is, no amount of success will feel fulfilling if your inner world is still ruled by unhealed pain. Then comes the pivotal turn in the book, the practice of micro-shifting. We often think change requires big, sweeping moves, but lasting transformation is built on small, consistent shifts. Choosing the better thought, the kinder word, the brave action again and again, until your nervous system believes that the new you is safe. Wiest says, you are not failing when you feel resistance. You are at the edge of becoming. So when you procrastinate, pause. When you overthink, breathe. When you want to run, stay. These are the moments that reshape you. Not the highlight reels, but the quiet, private choices you make every day. There's a tenderness in Wiest's writing that makes this journey feel less like a lecture and more like a conversation with a wiser version of yourself. She does not rush the process. She invites you to slow down, to reflect, to ask not how fast can I change, but how deeply can I understand. Because true healing isn't a rush to the top, it's learning to love the climb. And so, as we approach the midway point of this journey, a question emerges. What if the mountain isn't there to punish you, but to teach you what you're truly capable of? What if everything you're avoiding is the key to becoming everything you're meant to be? The climb is hard, yes, but every step forward is a step away from the life that hurt you and closer to the life that can hold you. And somewhere beyond the fear, beyond the sabotage, beyond the stories you've outgrown, a new version of you is waiting. Stillness, clarity, power. It's time to meet her. You're not meant to stay the same. Nature doesn't stay the same. The seasons shift, rivers reroute, mountains erode and rebuild. You, too, are a part of that great rhythm meant to evolve, to release, to rebuild yourself from the inside out. As we continue the climb within the mountain is you. Brianna Wiest now turns our attention toward what lies on the other side of emotional excavation, the act of rebuilding. Once we've unearthed our patterns of self-sabotage and begun to rewrite our identity, the question becomes what now? The second half of this journey is about integration. It's about embodying the lessons you've learned and stepping into alignment with the version of yourself you've longed to become. But first comes grief. Wiest reminds us that transformation often begins with loss. Not the kind that breaks our heart, but the kind that clears the path. You must grieve your old identity. You must let go of the roles you played to survive. You must release the comfort of the cage you built from past pain. Because even if that cage kept you safe, it also kept you small. To truly grow, Wiest says, you must become someone new. And that version of you will require habits, boundaries, and beliefs that feel uncomfortable at first, but only because they are unfamiliar, not because they are wrong. She writes, your new life is going to cost you your old one. It will cost you your excuses, your narratives, your resistance to discomfort. But it will also return to you something far greater: peace, purpose, self-respect. Wiest invites us to begin practicing emotional intelligence as a daily ritual, not as a buzzword, but as a lived experience. That means no longer running from discomfort, but using it as information. It means no longer fearing rejection, but understanding that rejection is protection when something isn't aligned with your worth. It means learning to respond instead of react to act from your vision, not your wound. One of the most powerful tools Wiest introduces is visualization, not of vague dreams, but of your future self in intricate detail. Who is she? What does she believe? How does she speak to herself in the mirror? What boundaries does she hold? What energy does she allow? Wiest encourages us to begin acting in alignment with that person now. Not once you've healed. Not once you've achieved the goal. Now, because the bridge to her is built with today's choices. Every decision you make becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. But what happens when fear creeps in again? When self-doubt whispers that you are still the person you used to be? Wiest reassures us that's part of the process. Healing isn't linear. It's layered. It loops back. It tests you not to punish you, but to show you what still needs tending. Progress looks like grace. It looks like catching yourself in a sabotaging pattern and choosing differently, even once. That moment of awareness, that small pivot, is a revolution. And over time, those pivots compound. You start choosing peace over chaos, growth over guilt, intuition over approval. Another cornerstone of this book is the importance of building a life of integrity, one that reflects who you really are, not who you've been told to be. Wiest invites you to stop seeking your worth in how useful you are to others, and instead find it in how honest you are with yourself. You're not here to shrink yourself to fit into lives that no longer align with you. You're here to build a life that fits the truth of your being. This means setting boundaries, letting go of relationships that thrive on your silence, turning down opportunities that look good but feel wrong. And most of all, it means trusting yourself again. Wiest's words are both soft and unflinching. She does not sugarcoat the difficulty of growth, but she does remind us that we are capable, not in the someday sense, but now. She also explains that healing is not about fixing yourself, it's about returning to yourself. The mountain, all along, was not there to be conquered, but to be understood. And once you understand the terrain, once you know where the shadows fall, where the rocks are loose, where the climb steepens, you stop fearing the path. You walk it with wisdom. You don't just survive the mountain, you become it. Strong, still, grounded, evolved. As we near the end of this journey, one final lesson echoes loudest. You cannot be truly at peace until you are no longer at war with yourself. That war is quiet. It's waged in thoughts that say, "I'm not enough," in choices made out of fear, in dreams abandoned because they felt too heavy to hold. But now, you know better. You are not the enemy. You are the one who endured. You are the one who questioned, who felt, who shifted, who stayed. And most importantly, you are the one who is still becoming. So take a breath. Look at the mountain that once seemed immovable, and know that it was never a barrier. It was always a mirror. And now that you've seen what lies within, you can rise, not by leaping to the top, but by placing one steady foot in front of the other, knowing each step forward is sacred. Each step forward is yours. If this journey through the mountain is you spoke to something deep inside you, you're not alone. These stories, these insights, they reflect the quiet work so many of us are doing every day. If you'd like to explore more books that help us understand ourselves better, feel free to subscribe. Novobook shares soulful book journeys like this one, crafted with care for minds that seek and hearts that listen. If a particular line or idea stayed with you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your favorite insight in the comments, it helps continue the conversation. And if you know someone else facing their own mountain, gently share this audio with them. Sometimes the right words come at just the right time. Until next time, stay curious, stay gentle, and keep climbing.